In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a system that will enable you to reach thousands and thousands of qualified prospects every single week. Trust me when I say that this is the one system that will change everything that you know about getting new clients using cold outreach. When you implement what I'm about to show you here, signing 5, 10, maybe even 15 clients per month not only becomes totally achievable, but also mathematically inevitable. Just to give you a quick preview of what makes this exact cold email system different, let's be real, most outreach methods out there rely on sending maybe 50 or 100 outreach messages per day. I'll show you how we can put that number on absolute steroids, how we can be doing 10x of what your competitors are already doing due to the higher volume of outreach that we're doing whilst maintaining the high quality of personalization inside of our cold emails as well. Using this exact approach, I personally sent over 20,000 emails in a single month to generate over $50,000 in revenue and over $300,000 in pipeline for my businesses. And the best part is that it's fairly hands-off after you set up the email system completely from scratch in the first place. I'm just scrolling through my Smart Lead dashboard right now, and you can see a bunch of campaigns: barbershops, petrol stations, dental clinics, med spas, and a bunch of other local businesses. And you can see that most of these campaigns have 1 in 150, 1 in 200 people replying to our cold outreach at scale. And of course, if you're selling a digital or a SaaS product, it's probably worth showing this campaign to you because, as you can see over here, you only took 3,500 leads to be enrolled in a specific campaign in order to generate over 43 positive replies for our client inside of one service month. And spoiler alert, that client literally had to ask us to pause the outreach because their sales team was getting too many leads from our outreach, from just one simple campaign that took just 2 hours to set up completely from scratch. Before we jump into the actual build out of this entire system that I'm about to show you, I want to break down the 3 main components which will determine 99% of your success when it comes to implementing this entire system. The first part of this system is what I refer to as the geeky tech stuff, and specifically in this part we will show you how you can purchase domains, how you can create inboxes, so that you can basically send super high volumes of outreach, which will make it mathematically improbable for you to not book meetings. Now, in order for you to grasp and truly understand this specific part of the tutorial, I'm just going to give you a quick example. Let's assume right now you're using one email inbox in order to send all of your cold outreach emails. At most, from one email inbox, let's imagine that it's your name@company.com email address, you may be lucky to be sending 20 emails per day every single day. That will mean that per month, you can maybe at best send around 400 emails. And given that 1 in 400 typically gets a reply, you would be lucky to be leaving the month with 1 lead, 1 appointment, 1 proposal, and hence 1 sale at best. And that's just using one email inbox and what I refer to as the LAPS conversions that you can see on the left-hand side, which obviously stands for leads, appointments, proposals, and sales. What we're going to show you today is how you can unlock the volume behind cold outreach. So essentially in this case, rather than just relying on one email inbox, as you can see on the left-hand side, we're going to be showing you how you can buy multiple domains. In each domain, you can set up a bunch of inboxes. So let's imagine for a second that you buy 6 different domains. You can set up 30 email inboxes, which will enable you to send 600 emails per day, meaning that you can send over 12,000 emails per month. And assuming the same kind of reply rates, you'll be getting 36 leads, 30 appointments, 20 proposals, and 15 sales per month, assuming that the conversions remain completely the same. So we're trying to make it mathematically impossible for you to not be able to get a higher volume of positive replies from your target leads. So that wraps up section number 1, where we'll talk about all this geeky tech stuff and how you can set up your email durability for success, so that after you buy those domains, you can also then create a Smart Lead account and you can push those domains into Smart Lead for what we call the warm-up process, which is basically the process of training your emails to land into the inbox rather than the spam, junk, and promotion folders. Right after that, we will jump to part 2. And part 2 is all about finding people that want to be sold to. Typically, this is when we need to understand where our ideal clients and where our best buyer persona hangs out. And in most cases, it'll be one of 3 places. The first type of businesses that we may want to be selling into could be local businesses, in which case we'll show you how you can scrape Google Maps, which will enable you to unlock all of those decision makers directly from local businesses. In some cases, if your target audience hangs out on LinkedIn, for instance, let's say you sell to software founders, in that case, we'll show you how you can use some tools like G7 Lead Finder, Apollo.io, or LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And if for whatever reason you're not selling into local businesses or LinkedIn audiences, and you're selling to more social audiences, be it someone who hangs out on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or something of that sort, we'll also show you how you can use a bunch of social scrapers so that you can pull all of their details using platforms like Phantom Buster or Apify in the process as well. Now, the end goal of this section will be to show you how you can scrape a list, and how more than that, you can then verify the emails afterwards. So you end up having a great list with high quality emails for each individual lead. Because in part 3, we will then be creating great email copy for that list of people. We'll be, first of all, breaking down everything into what I refer to as the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps standing for the persona that we're targeting, the pain points that we're solving, and the process. And with other P being the product differences. In other words, how is our product or solution different to the solution that our target prospect is already using right now? I'll also be giving you hypothetical examples, and we will be building this out completely from scratch. For the purpose of this section, the first thing that we'll be doing is purchasing domains so that we can then create a bunch of inboxes so that we can send more cold outreach. Now, in my opinion, for the purpose of doing this, the best platform is MailScale, not just because they give you a free domain included with a free trial. So in other words, you just get one free domain to send cold outreach from, which typically, will cost you $10 or $15 otherwise. But on top of that, having tested tens of different platforms that enable you to buy domains and to create mailboxes, MailScale, as the name of the company suggests, is built for scalability when it comes to your cold outreach. So for that reason, my go-to is MailScale. All I'm going to do here is just click on Start for Free in the top right-hand corner and sign up for an account. As soon as you're inside of your account, you should see on the left side of the panel the Domains tab. And here, we just need to click on Purchase Domains. As soon as you click on that button, over here, it will ask you to enter the name of your business. In my case, my business is called Unlock Clay. So let's just type that in, Unlock Clay. We can select the type of domain that we want to purchase. In my opinion, the .coms are a lot more legitimate because whenever someone gets an email from like a .org or .biz email address, you're not going to be taken as seriously. So I do think that $15 per year for one domain is very much worth it. You can then pick the number of domains that you want to buy. In my case, I'm just going to select 6 domains. And at the bottom over here, you can copy and paste the domain forwarding address. And this is where you want users to be redirected as soon as they type in one of these burner domains that we're buying right now. So in this case, I'm just going to click on Preview New Domains, and you should be able to see a bunch of domains at the bottom that look very similar to my main Unlock Clay domain. So for example, it's Unlock Clay Online or Unlock Clay Headquarters. And assuming that I'm happy with these domains, I'm just going to click on Buy Domains in the top right-hand corner. And over here, I can just go ahead and buy those domains straight away. Just as a quick side mention here as well, the one feature that I was actually blown away with the other day is their unlimited plan. So if you're an enterprise user whereby you send hundreds of thousands of emails already, or you want to scale your outreach to the tens of thousands of emails every single month, you can get unlimited mailboxes to scale cold emails just the same way as you would scale other channels like Google Ads, for instance. This is really, really cool. They don't mention the pricing here, but I guess if you're an enterprise client and you want to purchase several hundred mailboxes, chances are this will probably be built for you. But I just thought it's worth mentioning because I know a lot of businesses have the ambitions of, just starting small with 30, 20 domains maybe, and then after that, just pumping up into higher volumes. So let's just zoom out for a second. We've already bought the domains, meaning that we have a lot of different domains from which we can send cold outreach. But before we do that, we need to create some mailboxes. And the way we can go about that is by clicking onto mailboxes on the left side of the panel over here, and then click on Create New Mailboxes. Over here, we can just enter our details. So we can enter our first name and last name, and we can choose the domains where we want to create new inboxes. So we can tick them off one by one over here. I would personally recommend up to 5 mailboxes per domain. And at the bottom here, you can click on Preview Mailboxes. You will then generate different variations of mailboxes at the very bottom. And as soon as you're happy with it, you can click on Create 20 Mailboxes right in front of you over here. And before you know it, as soon as you click on Submit and create 20 mailboxes at the bottom, you should now be able to navigate into your mailboxes folder, and you should see that all the mailboxes have been created. Let me just clarify all the different sales tools that you need to be aware of that we will be using throughout this video. So we just started by using MailScale, which enables us to set up the email deliverability for success and enables us to create sufficient mailboxes so that we can send mass outreach at scale. Now, the second tool over here is SmartLead, and SmartLead will be used to automate the sending of emails, and also on top of that, it will be used to warm up email inboxes. This is my go-to tool for email sending. There are a lot of other great tools like Lemlist, like Growth Machine, Instantly, and some other tools as well on the market. However, my go-to is SmartLead. And essentially all we need to do now is head over into SmartLead, sign up for a free account, head over into email accounts on the left side of the panel. And if we go back into MailScale, we should be able to click on Export Mailboxes. And then if we select SmartLead as the platform and click on Export to SmartLead, this will be downloaded as a CSV file, as you can see on the top of my screen right now. We can then drag and drop this CSV file over here, and we should be able to see the preview of all the inboxes that we're connecting before then clicking on Upload Now at the bottom right hand corner over here. Now by default, as we can see, as soon as we import the mailboxes into our SmartLead account, we should be able to see all the mailboxes in front of us. We can also see that the warm-up has been enabled already, but in case if it hasn't, all you need to do is just select a couple of the inboxes that you want to start warming up, or you can use the toggle at the top left hand corner of the screen and select every single mailbox that you own. And over here, you can then click on Bulk Update and tick this box for Bulk Update Warm-up status to be active, total number of warm-up emails per day to be 5, and bulk update daily ramp-up to be 5 as well. When it comes to the reply rate, over here, we're just trying to train those emails to get some replies, so in which case we're going to put a 22% reply rate, which, if you think about ordinary, usual day-to-day emails that you send out, most of the time you'll get 22% reply rate either way. And then over here, for the custom warm-up identifier tag, we can just put in SmartLead warm-ups. And in case if we end up receiving any sort of emails, we can then use filters inside of our Gmail account. So for example, in our Gmail account, we can then filter for something like this, where we say SmartLead warm-ups. And then at the bottom over here, we can then create a filter, and we can make sure that these emails are marked as read and skip the inbox. So essentially what will happen in this case is any emails that we receive from that, they will be automatically marked as read, and they will skip the inbox so that you don't need to see them. And then you can create this filter. And that will mean that going forward, you should not be worried about receiving hundreds of random emails in your inbox that you didn't expect to see. More than that, you can tick the box to bulk update, auto adjust warm up and sending ratio. And that brings us nicely to the end of this. And we can just click on save over here and type in the word confirm. And voila, we should see that every single one of the mailboxes has now been connected. We should see that they have a daily limit of 5 emails being sent per day to warm them up. We should see that the warm-up is enabled and the warm-up reputation is 100%. Now for part 2, we're now talking about where do we find the right ICP audience? In other words, the people that fit our ideal client profile. And 99% of the time, if we're looking for leads from local businesses, we can use a tool like Google Maps to find them. And there are a lot of Google Maps scrapers like outscraper.com, for example. For LinkedIn audiences, as I mentioned earlier in the video, there are 2 or 3 main options, including Apollo.io, D7 Lead Finder, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If we're targeting any other audience that perhaps does not hang out on LinkedIn and cannot be seen on Google Maps, the chances are we could basically use one of the social scrapers on a tool called Apify. And if we go to apify.com/store, we should be able to see every single publicly available scraper that has ever been created. And typically it's a super intuitive plug and play way to basically scrape any sort of social media website, be it TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, anything of that sort. So we can keep that in mind for future reference as well. For the purpose of this video, however, I'm just going to focus on LinkedIn audiences, but should you be interested in local business leads or using social scrapers using a tool like Apify, in the guide down below, I'll make sure to add a link to this secret GPT that I spent over a year creating. And with this GPT, all you need to do is just ask it a question. So in this case, I'm going to say, I want to find construction companies in the USA. How? ? And this GPT is trained on over 200 different sales tools that I personally learned and taught to others. So in this case, it will give you the best option for scraping a specific list of companies or people. And more than that, it'll also give you an exclusive discount. And it will also show you a video, believe it or not. So if you click over here, you should be redirected to this video over here. And as you can see for yourself, this video has 29 likes, which shows that, it must be legit, it must be good. And as I mentioned earlier, the end goal of this section will be to scrape a list and verify the emails. Now, before we can do this, we need to start talking about what I refer to as the 4 Ps. Now, the 4 Ps stand for 4 critical words. The first word is the persona. In other words, who is the ideal client persona that we want to reach out to? We need to nail this based on the job title of the people, the industry, the geography, the niche, I will need to clarify all of that. The second thing that we'll talk about is what are the pain points that this persona faces right now. The third P is the process and their existing process right now. What's their status quo? What are the current downsides of the existing process that they have in place? And then the fourth P stands for product differences. What's the difference between their status quo right now and what you have to offer? So as a quick example, let's just imagine for a second that we're selling to sales and operations decision makers who work at staffing and recruitment firms in the UK and the US markets. And specifically, we're going after companies that provide commoditized recruitment services where on their websites they have a mention of a personal approach to recruitment, which literally every single recruiter pretty much mentions on their website. More than that, their current headaches could be manual candidate sourcing, manual client outreach, manually monitoring of their target market for signals like job changes, new job listings, promotions, funding news, any other sort of relevant sales signals. And the chances are they're probably under a lot of pressure from their founders or owners to implement AI into their existing client acquisition and candidate sourcing processes. And the biggest headache of all of this is that they have a lack of differentiation, as every single recruiter prides themselves on a personalized approach, which is not really that technical. And for example, they don't have any sort of AI implemented within the business, and so they're not able to market themselves and advertise themselves as an AI-powered recruitment firm. Already, we covered the personas, we covered the pain points, and this brings us nicely to talking about their current processes and our solution and our offer and how we would stand out compared to their current status quo. So as I mentioned, their current status quo is as follows. They basically refresh job boards for new job listings. They have to stay on top of their clients' LinkedIn and website career pages to see if they have new jobs listed. And they have to track any sales signals manually. That's just depressing, right? Like, that's not good enough. And our solution is to automate 99% of low leverage recruitment work for sales teams and operations teams so that they can adopt a modern approach to recruitment, which I know this sounds really, really generic. That's why I've created a separate offer at the bottom where we will set up one free job monitoring dashboard that will pull newly listed jobs from your clients and pipeline leads from your CRM. And we will auto notify the sales and operations teams as soon as any sort of sales signals occur so that they can stay on top of those sales signals by email rather than having to manually research for those sales signals every single day themselves. So we're basically automating what they're doing manually already. And that way they will have no need to look at job listings manually, and we will even find jobs that they may not be able to find manually otherwise. A lot of the time, these jobs are not even listed on mainstream job portals like Indeed or Glassdoor, but instead they're just hidden behind a specific careers page that a lot of recruiters would not be able to manually find on the company website. Now, before we can start worrying about copywriting, we first need to source a list of these job titles in these industries, in these geographies, in this specific niche. So all I'm going to do now is screenshot this table with all the ICP requirements and copy and paste it into this secret GPT that I've just shared with you. And I'm going to say the following: where do I find these leads? And I'm going to give it a couple of seconds just to think really quickly. Straight away at the top over here, it says, sounds like Apollo is the best option because it has the largest volume of accurate enriched emails for this specific type of audience. So all we need to do now is head into Apollo.io. And now that the GPT has told us that Apollo.io is the best place to find the leads, we will now head over to Apollo.io's website, and I'll show you in just a couple of minutes how you can get Apollo's data at a fraction of the price. So the first thing we'll do is we'll click on login in the top right hand corner, and on the left side of the panel we can click into people over here, and all we need to do is just to use the filters on the left hand side to start filtering for the kind of roles that we want to reach out to. So for the time being, we can just type in operations on the left hand side over here and sales, and we can now filter for little things like the employee count on the left hand side over here. So we can filter for 51 to 100 and 100 to 200 employee companies. We can also filter for operations and sales roles. And in the top left-hand corner, it will tell us how many contacts we found using these search criteria. As soon as we are happy with this, we can just simply copy the actual URL of the Apollo search, and we can head it into exportapollo.com, which enables you to effortlessly scrape Apollo leads in just a couple of minutes. So the first thing I'll do in this case is I'll sign up for an account. And as soon as I'm inside of my account over here, all I need to do is basically copy and paste the Apollo search link, give it a quick name, and I'll just call this Recruiters Test. And then at the bottom over here, I can select how many contacts I want Export Apollo to scrape for me. Let's say 8,000 contacts to start with. I can switch on the toggle to scrape only available emails, enable email verification as well, so all the emails are verified. Also start with company name cleaning so that the names of companies are cleaned up for me at no extra cost. And then as soon as I'm happy with all of this, I can just click on create link at the top over here, and I should now be able to see that this list is being scraped in real time, as we can see at the bottom of the page over here. And as soon as it's ready, we should see that it says completed at the bottom of the page, and all we need to do is just click on the download button, and it will show us the exact spreadsheet with all of those leads downloaded directly from Apollo.io. We can now quickly click on Open with Google Sheets and just open up this entire spreadsheet. We can see a list of people's names, full names, job titles, and everything of that sort. And this is just a high-level overview of how we can go about basically sourcing all of these leads at a fraction of the price of getting a paid Apollo.io subscription. In this case, all we need to do afterwards is just click on Download CSV. And now I'll show you how, just within a couple of minutes, how we can send a personalized email to each individual one of those leads. And in this case, we'll be using a tool called Twain.ai to be able to personalize every single one of the emails sent to those leads. To start with, what I recommend for you is to go to Twain.ai and sign up for an account. As soon as you are inside, all you need to do is click on plus and campaign. And the first step here will be to start adding a couple of leads to a campaign so that we can test out some of our copywriting. In which case, I'll just click on add manually on the right-hand side, and I'll just copy and paste a couple of LinkedIn profiles of leads that we got from Apollo already. As soon as the profiles load, I can then click on continue over here and just type in the website of my company. And if you have any sort of documents, be it PDF files, company decks, or anything of that sort, that can just explain our products, the pain points that we solve, the persona that we solve this for, and everything of that sort, then you can just upload a PDF file so this AI copywriting assistant can actually digest all of that info for you. So in this case, I'm just going to describe the target persona. I'm going to be a bit more vague for this example. So I'm just going to say any decision makers at staffing or recruitment agencies that are fed up of manual processes. And then I'm going to click on import persona. Now, just for a bit of context, I've uploaded this PDF, which covers the job titles, the industries, the geographies that we're targeting, the niche that we're selling to, the pain points that our ICP has. And then on top of that, I just inputted the status quo, the solution that we have in mind, and the offer of a free automation. So based on all of this information, it now gives us the option to create a campaign idea. If you click on suggest over here, it can come up with some campaign ideas for us on the basis of all of this information that we filled in already. And we can read this, for example. So here it says, offer a free customized audit, showing how automation can integrate smoothly with existing ATS workflows without disruption. Once again, I don't really like AI-generated ideas, so I'm going to describe my idea myself. And in this case, I'm just going to say, generate a personalized 3-email sequence offering the recruitment decision makers 1 no-brainer automation for client finding or candidate sourcing using a tool called Clay.com, as just as an example. And then we can click on continue over here. It will give us the option of how we want to configure our sequence. In other words, bearing in mind that Twain is going to personalize outreach for us, it gives us the option of Twain basically personalizing the messages for us, or us being able to manually set this up ourselves. So I'm going to choose the manual setup option. And over here, you can see that it basically comes up with this right in front of us already. The best part about this is we can just remove the existing text and we can retype this using a conversational prompt. So for example, in the first email, I'm going to say the following: a well-researched, personalized and relevant, specific and quantified observation that shows that we did our research on the prospect and company, and explain why we are reaching out to them over their colleagues. And after that, I'm just going to say, call them out on manual status quo and explain how we can help them using a no-brainer free automation offer. And then on top of that, at the very bottom, we can have a CTA question asking if the recipient wants details on the automation. After this, believe it or not, we can just click on create campaign and it will give us a decent enough first draft, which we will then need to tweak and edit slightly. So let's give it a couple of seconds to load up on our screen. And let's take a look at the first iteration of this email copy. So it says, hi John, I noticed you moved your family in 2020 to kickstart RHM's fourth market and now manage operations for several states. That kind of growth means you juggle lots of moving parts and your teams are likely stuck updating job boards, CRMs, and career pages by hand. I help people in your spot set up one simple automation with Clay.com that finds new clients or sources candidates, no charge. Would you like to see how it works? This specific part about teams likely being stuck updating job boards, CRMs, and career pages by hand doesn't really make sense. So what I can do now is on the right-hand side over here, I can click on step 1 on this toggle over here where it says all steps and select step 1 and say, instead of, and you can quote, this quote, which didn't make much sense, your teams are likely stuck updating job boards. Never say this and call them out on specifics that they do manually, e.g. having to look for a specific client of theirs. Bonus points if we can name drop a client that the company works with and ask them a poke the bear question to see how they can track new job listings from existing clients without doing it manually. So for something like this, we can just basically call them out on specific details that we want changed within the email template. And within just a couple of seconds, these instructions will be fed into the AI copywriter and it will rewrite the copy. So in this case, you can see you've regenerated the opening line as well. So it says, "Hi John, RHM's jump from 1 to 4 markets in 5 years is no small thing. Your job list seems to change daily with so many clients. So I'm curious, when a client posts a new opening on their career page, are your team still copying those job details into your system by hand or using spreadsheets to keep track? We can set up a simple Clay automation that sends your team an email alert as soon as an existing client site adds a job. This removes the need for anyone to monitor those sites or type up new jobs manually." Want a quick overview of how this works? And worth noting for the reader, it will be 33 seconds to read it and only 109 words, which in my opinion is really, really good. Step number 2 then. You could read step number 2, but we haven't really written this out yet. So very similarly over here, all you need to do is just click on Edit Framework and you can edit this for yourself. In my case, I just like to call them out for working for a specific company before existing company and call them out on how similar or different the industry of that company is compared to their last employer. For context, this works every single time because let's say if they worked in staffing before, you could say something like, "Oh, I've seen that you've been doing this staffing thing since your early days in ABC Staffing Limited. Really cool how you've been in the space for like 12 years, as an example." Or if they switch from one industry to another, we will call them out on that shift as well. And then we can click on Update Step over here. And you see what we've done here? Beautiful. It says, "John, you spent a decade at Aerotech before joining RHM Staffing Solutions, which has a different approach and client mix compared to Aerotech's national model. We automate client and candidate sourcing with quick builds on Clay that send ready-to-use alerts and docs straight to your team. Do you want to see how this could work for your sourcing?" Now, to be honest, now the offer and the call to action doesn't make much sense. So as you can probably tell, it's similar to speaking to ChatGPT. You now just need to select step 2 and say, make sure that the offer in email 2 is clear. We can build one custom automation that will save them the time of tracking things manually otherwise for their sales team, e.g. job openings, people leaving their clients' companies, which can be an opportunity to sell into new accounts with new champions, etc., etc. And we can just type that in, and within just a couple of seconds, we should be able to see that step 2 gets regenerated. So now it says, "John, you spent a decade at Aerotech before joining RHM Staffing Solutions. We build one custom automation that saves sales teams from manual tracking like job openings or people leaving client companies. Setup is quick and your team can use it right away. You want to see what this could do for your sourcing and outreach." Now, to be totally honest, look, it's not the sharpest copy right now, but you can see how through this iterative process of spending a couple more minutes, you'll arrive at even more personalized copy. So in this case, I'm just going to give it one final shot, and all I'm going to do is just click on the pencil icon over here where it says Edit Framework, and I'm going to retype this one sentence summary. So I'm just going to say, call them out on manually tracking promotions and new hires amongst existing client lists, and call them out on their CRM or ATS probably being out of date because some clients or pipeline leads have changed emails or moved onto new companies. Offer a free automation to update their CRM using Clay.com in real time to see new employee changes and re-verification of old CRM contacts. And then now we can click on Update Step and see how this sounds instead. You can see it's a bit better now. It says, "This offer means your CRM or ATS may fall behind since contacts change jobs or update emails all the time. I can build you one custom automation that checks and updates this in real time using Clay.com. It can help your team spot new job moves or flag old records so you spend less time tracking changes by hand. Would you like to hear how this could help with sourcing or outreach?" And then I'll say add a cheeky PS line calling out the name of a specific decision maker at the company, anyone other than the recipient who may like this idea. I can put this into step 2, and then I can just type that in. And now hopefully you will add a cheeky PS line to email number 2, which will sound something like, oh, I bet Bob would love this idea since, it could bring in new clients. So let's have a look at how this plays out. And then at the bottom over here, you can see it now added the PS line. I think Matt Gillespie might also like this idea, which once again, it just makes it a bit more personalized. And then email 3 is already pretty decent because I think it calls out a specific testimonial that we have on our B2B Boosted website of working with Wave Talent. We basically talk about this testimonial in email 3 as well. I'm fairly happy with this copy. I believe that at the scale at which we're sending this out, 99% of the time we will be getting 1 in a couple of hundred people to reply positively to this. The only thing I'll do now is I'll just say break down each email so that each paragraph is no longer than 3 lines maximum, simply because you can see it's quite a lot of text to read all at one go, so it just makes you read this a lot slower. So now let's hope that it just basically restructures the email so that it's just a bit easier to read. And you can see pretty quickly Twain has reformatted the copy for us, so now it's broken down in smaller chunks, so they're a lot easier to read, and you can see the first email is now going to take 28 seconds to read rather than 33 like before. So as soon as we're pretty happy with the email copy, the best way to really test it out is just by importing it into SmartLead, and this is how we can go about adding more leads to the campaign. So the first thing we need to do is just click on plus over here, and we can then click on upload CSV. As soon as that happens, assuming that you're happy with the copy, remember this huge list of sales and ops people that we have downloaded. All we need to do is just click, download it as a CSV file, and then after that, we can just drag and drop the CSV file straight into this Twain campaign. So in this case, we have the verified email address, we have the full name of the person, we have the job title of the person, and that's pretty much that. On top of that, if we want to add any sort of trigger or signal, we can basically add that as well. And after that, we can click on add leads for free over here. You can see the option to click on generate all in the top right hand corner, and that way you can basically generate a personalized email for each individual one of the leads. So if you want to back yourself, you can just click on generate, and straight away you can generate every single lead's emails. For the time being, I'm just going to test this out on the second lead as well. I'm just going to click on generate. I'm going to now see what email it comes up with. And whilst it's generating the emails, I'm going to click on export to the top of the screen and then click on SmartLead over here. We will now need to go into our SmartLead account. So if we head into SmartLead, we should now be able to click on settings inside of our account. And if we proceed down to API key management, we should be able to copy our API key directly into Twain. We can then click on continue and head back into SmartLead. Inside of SmartLead, we can click on create campaign. We can call this Tim's Outreach 101 as an example. And then we can click into the sequence, just add a bit of placeholder text and click on save changes. For the time being, all we need to do is just make sure that we have created this outreach campaign, and we can now go into Twain, click on refresh over here, and we should now be able to see the campaign that we've just created. So we can map out step 1, step 1, step 2, step 2, and so on. And we can call this variable email 1, email 2, and email 3. And these will be the 3 emails that we send across. And then the subject line will be added over here as well. After that, we can click on export leads. And assuming that we have ran all the leads over here in Twain, as soon as we push this leads through to SmartLead, we should see those leads arrive into SmartLead within just a couple of seconds. Now, if we head back into SmartLead, we should be able to use these curly brackets to insert the variables. So we can just put in email 1 over here, and we can also give it a subject line. So in that case, we'll just click on variables. And if we go down and select the subject line, we can then click on save changes. And if we click on add step, we should be able to add another email. So we're sending a second email as well. And then if we scroll down, we're now just going to put in Twain step number 2, which will be email number 2, and then click on add step again, or we can add the third email on top of that as well. So let's just add that real quick. Now we can click into the setup. We can select the sender accounts that we want to be sending the outreach from. We can also select the schedule of the campaign. So in other words, like what time zone do you want to email people in? In my case, I'm in London and the prospects are based out of the UK as well. So I'll be sending them emails. You can see how many leads you want to reach out to on a daily basis. So let's say I want to send 1,000 emails a day. I can do that. And then the campaign settings, I'm just going to save the general settings for the time being because I'm usually happy with those. I can then proceed to the final review. And this is just an example of the email copy that one person will be receiving. So in this case, we're reaching out to Imelda and it says, hey Imelda, you've grown Supreme Staffing into new markets and now run operations across 4 states. You're likely trying to keep track of job requests from a client like Georgia Pacific. How do you know when they open new roles without checking their career page every day? I'm guessing your team often scrolls through old client sheets to see if someone like Wave Logistics, which by the way is another client of theirs, posts a new opening. Tracking those jobs by hand gets old, and competitors might notice openings before you do. We build quick automations to spot new job posts from your clients right away, then notify your team. No ongoing fees, no extra work for your team, and the first build is on us. Want to see how this works. In my opinion, this is really, really good. If we scroll into email number 2, it says, hey, I saw you worked at Partners Personnel before Supreme Staffing, which is a different world from Supreme Staffing's broader focus across industries. Your team might dig through old client sheets, blah, blah, blah. And the call to action is pretty decent, and I think it's pretty good that it calls out a specific colleague of theirs, saying that Edith might like this idea as well. And then if we scroll into email number 3, it looks relatively good as well because it calls out the exact testimonial that we have from a very similar staffing client to this one. Now, for context, this is how it would look like for one lead. If we want to push hundreds or thousands of leads, it will be the exact same process. Now that we're confident, we can just click on Generate All, and then after that, just click on Export. And as soon as we're inside of the campaign over here, we can now select our email accounts, and then after that, just launch the campaign. One thing that I cannot stress enough right now is that you 100% need to buy a bunch of email inboxes, because as I came to find over the last 2 years, right now is not the time to send personalized outreach or mass outreach. You need to combine both personalization and scale together. And for that reason, I recommend that you check out MailScale, because that will give you a free domain, which is probably worth, like $10, $15 at least. And one other thing worth mentioning, MailScale also enables you to easily get emails of your ideal clients by scraping Apollo for you. So should you want to apply filters in Apollo, MailScale can then help you to source those lead lists at a fraction of the price of using providers like Apollo.io in the first place. Now, as I mentioned a million times throughout this video already, I will be sharing the links to every single one of these tools alongside more in-depth tutorials so you can really learn every single tool inside out when building out your first campaigns completely from scratch. Now, my hope is that after watching this video, you put all of these tips into practice, you set up a cold email system completely from scratch, making sure that email durability, lead list building, and the messaging are completely on point, and that you can finally send cold emails at scale on autopilot. But if you want some inspiration to see how we set up cold email systems before, where we break down how we made over $42,000 in just 90 days using the exact system that I showed you inside of this video. I'll see you in that video.